Finally, I came to a rest. I turned back to look down the hill I'd jogged up, and took in the scenery of the fine architecture that was around me in the uptown section of Arkham. With such fine homes and even finer gardens, this place had always brought me back every day, and the uphill location had always made it ideal for my daily routine. But alas, this admiration had to come to a close, so I began my return jog back to the Miskatonic campus. The stirring of the student body gradually increased at these hours, when the first classes were ending and the second beginning. It was then when I caught wind of some gossip between two students. The subject was that of the campus library break-in, which happened a few days past, which ended with the disappearance of Miss Winthrop, who was the librarian working at the time, and the hospitalization of a campus handyman. Since such idle gossip was a waste of the proverbial breath for me, I decided to return back to my room to clean myself up and continue on with my thesis paper. Finally, after 4 hours of writing, I had found that my calculations were exceedingly off. I had finally decided to retreat out to the cafe across the campus, which was quite popular with university students as well as myself. It was then that I was ambushed by a large, burly-looking sort. "Oi there, chap! Are you Weber?" "Indeed I am. And you are?" And this is how I became introduced to Mr. Farnsworth, and after a rather boastful introduction on his behalf, I offered to have him join me in lunch, to which he offered complete coverage, and I was only too happy to oblige. If I knew the price of such a free lunch, I certainly would have turned it away, for this man was certainly a bit more than just on edge and sleep-deprived, as he had said. He began to pester me about a star, which I assumed would have been something of more of a celestial nature, and said of this occultic one that he had in mind. When finally words failed, he began to use impromptu napkin and some coffee in order to draw out the star he was trying to refer to. And to my surprise, I did indeed actually see this star, though I wasn't entirely sure as to what it was, but I could have sworn that I noticed it once in the library. With my curiosity piqued, and with time to spare before my evening plans, I decided to investigate further at the Miskatonic library. Knowing the Dewey Decimal System like the back of my hand, I was able to peruse through the occult section and find myself staring deep within a tome which covered topics of sigils, signs, and how their uses are related into occultic matters. And it was within this very tome that I had found just what I was searching for. The very star that was plaguing Mr. Farnsworth's mind now laid bare in plain ink in front of me. This strange mark, which had been found popular in some of the most archaic and primitive of tribes, separated entirely by geography, oceans, and mountains, in long gulfs of time, yet repeatedly this sign continued to remain vigil. It is unknown as to why, for the book did not lay bare as much information as I needed. I had returned the book to the shelf, and had discovered that indeed my hands were covered in perspiration. Why was I so nervous? This was clearly a mistake of a coincidence. Surely, Farnsworth must have just read this somewhere, ended up just losing himself in some fancy. Maybe he was the type that believes in ghosts. Having enough with the superstition, I headed out to the School of Natural Sciences, where I was to meet with Dr. Billing about this evening's field trip for the Astronomy Club. We passed several minutes engaged in conversation. I had always found the man to be quite fascinating, and I was quite proud for him to call me a fellow colleague. Gathering his things, we both carried on our conversation on our way to the academic field where the department's refractor telescope was held, about our interests and the new possibilities to be held with the Edison Tower, which was just become operational in Germany. In the cool night air, we met with the rest of the club outside of the athletic department and headed out west beyond Boundary Street. I had found this spot during a previous jog and brought it up to Dr. Billings. We both agreed that this was an ideal location to aid with our light pollution issue we had when doing nocturnal viewings on campus. Of course, tonight was just a build-up, a precursor for greater things to come. for within less than a week's time, on the other side of the world, a total solar eclipse could be witnessed, and on our side, a Syzygy, or an alignment of celestial bodies, for us, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. With a breeze from the northeast, I caught wind of something both wicked and foul, rotten for sure, whatever it may be. Several of the students mentioned it just as I had noticed, and as we began to gag, I don't know what brought me to this, but I grabbed one of the electric torches and head on over towards its general direction. And then I found her, covered in equal parts of gore and flies. She was filleted from the belly up. She appeared to have been alive during this, the looks of her face, in such sheer pain. She must have been dumped here some time ago. At first it was hard to see in this lighting, but it was no mistaken. It was her, Miss Winthrop, the missing librarian.
Professor!